Welcome to the Treasury Update podcast, presented by Strategic Treasurer, your source for interesting Treasury news, analysis, and insights in your car, at the gym, or wherever you decide to tune in.
Welcome to the Treasury Update podcast. This is Jeffery. I'm your host for this episode. The episode is called Making Payments Intelligent, the Paradigm Shift. I'm here with John Rubinetti from Deluxe. John, welcome.
Thank you, Craig. Always good to see you and be here with you.
Just a notice for those who are listening, this session is really aimed at bankers. The conversation episode is geared towards bankers who are focused on payments, but there's certainly no harm in attending if you're a corporate practitioner in receivables, treasury, or IT. It certainly may be helpful to listen, but we want you to know the primary audience for this discussion is bankers. So let's begin. I wanted to start off with the perspective, this idea of a mind shift or a paradigm shift. Payment modernization is certainly a really, really key topic. That's discussed in every event. There's even whole conferences on payments. And you have made note of some of the key changes in the perspective of bankers. And I'd love it if you could begin by describing what you are seeing as changing in the perspective arena. It's
been a really nice mind shift from the bankers. I think we spent a lot of time for the last few years kind of answering the what and why questions about digital, right? What is this thing going to do for me? Why should I make this transformation? Really trying to it just kept feeling like it was asking more questions and kind of getting to the, okay, we'll look at that, then we'll analyze it, and we'll be paralyzed when we're done. So I feel like they've gotten past that, which is exciting for us, right? And they're now in the what I'll call the how phase. How does this integrate within our systems? How can this enhance the customer experience for my customers? Those are the good conversations, and that's why, honestly, I'm really excited about it because it took a lot to get here, honestly, but I feel like the banks are on board and they're asking the right questions and have that thought, as to how.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned how in terms of integration and the user experience. I think we'll probably circle back to those as well. When we talk about payments modernization or updating payments, sometimes people think, it just has to be faster payments. And I know that's not the case. But I was wondering if you could talk through what do you see as, maybe from your perspective as a provider to banks and to corporations, but also maybe what you're hearing from bankers. What are the goals of payment modernization? You had mentioned too the user experience and efficiency, and whether you go into those more deeply or you bring up other ones. I'd just love to hear what you think.
Those I see as part of this, right? I think in my mind, there's really, it revolves around three things. I think the first, and probably the most important, right, is improving the data utilization. Having payments data is one thing, but really utilizing it in the right way, that's what customers and businesses are asking for. They want to extract more value from their payments, right, and have actionable insights. I think the second thing is really around automating the end-to-end process. And you and I have talked about this multiple times. Automating part of the process is not the answer, right? It typically leads to still more manual efforts and things like that. So automating it end-to-end, right? Reconciliation, settlement, and reporting, those three things are critical. And that's not just on the AR side, it's on both the AR and the AP side, right? So, automating that is very, very important and needs to be a goal. And I think the third thing is really speed and scalability. Enabling faster payments is one thing, but helping that be more efficient in moving the money while being able to scale and utilize more of the solution, touch more of your customers, impact more of your customers. That's where the customer experience probably comes in. Is it frictionless? Do your customers have to do more? That speed and scalability is so important. So those would be the three kind of goals that I would kind of put as high level priorities from the bank's perspective and the business perspective.
No, that's great. I'll just ask a couple of questions on the ones that you mentioned. So improving data utilization, you mentioned extracting more value, and the second item was automating the end-to-end process, which certainly uses data. So I'll just assume that there's other uses of that data. Maybe you could describe what that is beyond for cash application or posting or accounting.
It's data around fraud, right? Where's the fraud coming from, right? Could it be insights into that? Could it be DPO, DSO opportunities, right? To move, to get faster, pay faster, right? Where are your vendor consolidation opportunities? Cost of payments, right? The cost of the type of payments. That's the kind of insight that your data needs to provide so that you can make intelligent decisions and act on it as a business. Not just, okay, we're going to move these to card payment, we're going to move these to wire payments, and we're just going to run. No, that's the first part of it. The second part of it is saying, okay, now that I have this automated, what am I doing with what's the data telling me, right? And then how do I make decisions on that? That's the kind of insight that you're looking for.
Fraud, forecasting, analysis. Yeah, really good stuff. On the topic of speed, you had mentioned reporting in real time is key. And certainly there's applications where it's absolutely vital, sometimes where it's helpful, and sometimes where it's just becoming more important over time. That was on the automating the end-to-end processes. And you also spoke about speed and scalability. How important is speed becoming? Is it just based on certain use cases? Is it comprehensive? What are you seeing there?
Getting a solution in place is the first part. Then looking at the speed components and how to improve that, that's the second part, right? I don't think everybody's out there saying, I just need faster payments, I just need faster payments. It's, okay, let me have some more insight into my payments, and then how can I make them faster? How can I make it a better experience for my customers? Because sometimes just automating a process, as you're well aware, doesn't necessarily take friction out of it. And so sometimes just automating it kind of identifies, oh, you know what? This online that we ask 3 questions, maybe we should only ask 2, right? Make it a little more frictionless. Like that's what this exposes. But when you're not even there, you can't even anticipate that. So talking about faster payments, in an arena where you're not even playing, doesn't make sense. So I always say, get into the arena first, then start playing around with moving things around and trying to identify ways to make payments faster.
So let me see if I can make a question out of this. Faster payments, faster information, and richer information. How would you rank those? I know you want all of them, but how would you rank those?
Faster payments is last. I think that the richer the data, the richer the insight into the process, the better decision you can make. We always say, we want to push them to a card payment. And that's great, but sometimes that doesn't fit into the speed, or maybe it doesn't fit into the DSO or the DPO decisions of the company, right? And so you can't go fast without understanding that. So first, it's really the insight piece and having richer insight and richer data. That's what leads to your opportunity to make faster payments.
So, John, with those 3 goals that you talked about, I think it's fair to say what's an impediment to achieving those goals? What's inhibiting reaching this payment modernization vision that you described?
And this is, again, for bankers to understand, too, what we're hearing from businesses, right? It's kind of on both sides here. I think, number one, having legacy, we'll call it legacy infrastructure. And that may mean legacy systems. It may also mean manual systems, right? Like, spreadsheets and things like that. So legacy infrastructure of how you're doing things is number one, right? That's the biggest hurdle, is trying to get past that and make sure you're explaining what the value is of that and why, right? Number 2, which happens across all mid-sized companies, but it also happens amongst our bank partners, budget constraints. Businesses are facing ongoing challenges, prioritizing where they put tech investments. Do I spend the money on making my app better, or do I make sure that I have a payment capability linked in the app, right? It sounds like a simple decision, but it's a money decision. And so where do you put your investments, and how much investment do you have, right? So budget constraints always an inhibitor. And then organizational alignment, right? This one is always interesting because we always look at it from how we're organized as a company. But, from the bank's perspective, sometimes you have sales, then you have product, then you have IT, and they're reporting to different people. How do you get that alignment? And that's true in organizations too. It may be a smaller organization, and maybe it's a larger organization, but you still have the same thing where you have to make sure you have alignment to where's IT spending their time. Are they trying to do things with AI? Well, maybe there's an opportunity to kind of tag on to that, right? And then so now you've hit the budget constraints because you could do it for a little bit less by tag. So getting that alignment and having a clearer view across your organization kind of helps with all three of those, but those are the three. It's infrastructure, it's budget, and it's alignment to making decisions.
Thank you for that. And when you describe legacy infrastructure, there's legacy has positive terms like you want to leave a legacy, and then it has, if it's equipment, it's bad. And I hear people sometimes referring to it as tech debt, right? You've got this old tech, it sort of works, and you need to move on to something that's new. So
yeah, well, here's another way to think about that. I have a legacy business in Lockbox, and people think it's a legacy business that's going away, and it's actually not. It's a great legacy business for us that's actually growing, right? So you're right. Legacy can be looked at two different ways.
Before I look at collaboration partnering, I was wondering if you could just give everybody your 40-second, 50-second description of what do you do at Deluxe? What's your role? Because you're describing all these things. It'd just be helpful for those who may not know you.
Sure. So as the president of B2B Payments, what are B2B Payments? Well, we have a legacy lockbox business, which accepts many checks. We have about 8,500 lockboxes across the United States, and we have roughly about 65% market share there, where whether they're utilizing our lockboxes or our software to process lockboxes. So that's our legacy business, and then we are utilizing that legacy business to move into the digital space, digital receivables, right? We have receivable solutions. Our digital receivable solution is 360 plus. It is an integrated receivables solution that will have cash application first quarter of 25. So we're real excited about that digital solution and what that's automating and how AI fits in there. And then the other side of our business is the AP business. So we have a payable solution, a digital payable solution that integrates into the mid-market extremely well, basically takes a file in from the customer, figures out where it makes the payments, then closes it back up and closes in the whether it's Sage or NetSuite or some of those mid-market solutions. So those are our three major businesses. We have a bunch of ancillary stuff about that, but for us it's about B2B payments and making B2B payments easier and converting them to digital.
So for collaboration and partnering, what's the goal of bankers and their corporate clients? How are bankers trying to work and collaborate with their partners? And so collaboration is a huge word. It's talked about there. What's going on?
Yeah, it's a big word, and I think people get lost in it. But I try to simplify it, honestly. And the goal is to fully understand each other's mutual benefits. When you go at it that way, then no one's in there saying, hey, this is what I need, this is what I need. It's not about what I need. If you take that out and say, look, our goal here is to help automate this for our customers, right? How do we do this together? That's understanding the mutual benefits. And so when you're selecting partners, it's the same thing. Whether it's a partner to provide those services for you, or whether you're partnering with your customer to kind of understand that, it's the same thing. You have to have the same goal, and it has to be to create a win-win, that where both parties are mutually benefiting. And that's the way I think about it. It's the way I think about it with all my partnerships. It's the way I think about it with all my partners at the banks, right? If we're not doing things together and understanding that we have the same goal, right, which is to automate as much as possible and make the experience better for their customer, once we establish that, we're in a great place, and the conversations go better. When you don't have that up front, that goal of that mutual benefit for both of you, it's a constant fight. You're not sure, you don't trust, right? I think when you understand that, there's trust there, and that's the most important thing.
We've talked about payments modernization. Let's try to bring that back to bankers and to those corporate payments professionals who are listening. How do you make intelligent payments happen? And it's asking a little bit different way from payments modernization, but how do you make intelligent payments happen? Maybe it's the same question.
If you think about the things that we're doing here at Deluxe, right? We're helping banks and businesses offer solutions that automate the matching of payments, right, with receivable data, right, to generate real-time insights. That's what our solution does. And that's exactly what making and creating intelligent payments is all about. Do you have a solution that kind of takes the components of the AP or the AR, as I even explained on our AP solution? Is it a simple, take the file, make the payments, provide the data back, give some insight, right? I don't want to overcomplicate it, right? Because it's not. It's, you want to make the payment, want to streamline the process and deliver the insights so that cash flow forecasting can be improved, better insight, better DPO, DSO. Those are the things that people are looking for. And if you are able to do that, like we are, for your customers, then you're delivering, intelligent payments. And then you have the opportunity to, continue to improve and look for ways to save, to automate, to drive efficiencies, et cetera. It's as simple as that, but I think it leads to so much more.
Yeah, it certainly does. So, John, this will sound like I'm asking the same question because I just asked, how do you make intelligent payments happen? But this question is, what makes a payment solution more intelligent? What are the characteristics? How would you describe this is how we've achieved that?
Yeah, well, look, the goal is frictionless money movement. And if you're able to do that and the insights that you have can identify opportunities to reduce fraud, DPO, DSO opportunities, right? Whether to increase, decrease, right? To optimize, vendor consolidation, right? Do you have too many vendors? Can you consolidate your spend? Can you get a better return or a better discount? What are the total cost of payments? Is it better to start shifting payments to wire, right? Or ACH? ACH is cheaper, right? Like those are the insights that you're looking for. And, cash flow forecasting. Do you have enough cash flow? This is the kind of insight and data that you should be looking for to improve your business operations. And so if you can't get that from your solution, then you probably should be looking for another solution because that's what it needs to be. If it's just directing you to one way to pay, that's great. That's kind of automating part of the process. There's, when you look at kind of what you're trying to do, which is operational efficiency in a business, you're not just looking to make an, instead of doing a check rod, you just move it over here. You haven't solved for anything. You're not providing anything back. That's where the value component comes in to intelligent payments. Where are the other opportunities for you to be more efficient and to save money within your company? That's the way people should be thinking about how to have this conversation with a business.
So that famous quote, optimizing part of the process sub-optimizes the whole is certainly clear. But you said something pretty interesting there. I just wanted you to expand on it. Just moving it from, let's say, one payment type delivered in a channel to another is restrictive in some ways. And why isn't it like Henry Ford, like, you want every car, you want it to be black and painted black. And why isn't it the goal to move everything to virtual card or to ACH or to some other payment method? Why isn't that the optimal setup?
Because it's not taking into consideration what they currently do. Having a solution that automates everything, that may not be what they need. They may do a good job up front, right, of kind of putting things in the right payment modalities. But they don't know that. So is there a way to just kind of move it but get data and insight to it, right? It may be cost prohibitive, right? It sounds good because if you move it to the card payment, and listen, we do it too, and it's a great revenue stream, but does that work for every mid-sized company? And the answer is no, it doesn't, right? So sometimes you think, and it kind of goes to when how to have conversations with businesses about this. When you start to focus on operational efficiencies and pain points, you start to find better solutions for them. When you start with your transactional product that you think solves for things, you may miss that. And that's where it doesn't solve or fix problems. It just, you got your solution in there, and sometimes that doesn't work. And I spent a number of years consulting at Ernst & Young, and I can't get that out of my blood. So when I think about solving for things, I think about asking questions and understanding pain so that you can help solve, not just introducing a solution because it's your transactional way of selling.
B2B payments are also different than business to consumer. Like if you're like, hey, I'm doing rideshare, you have to pay by card or two other options. It's like you can limit it and gate it. But B2B, it's like I'm receiving payments. I'm not going to be able to just take payments in one channel. They're going to have multiple options, and I need to do that. And same thing on the payment side. Maybe I have a little more control on the payment side. So thanks for that. For all the bankers who are listening, what would you want to tell them about what they need to do? They may know some of it, they may know all of it, but what do bankers need to do to bring their clients along this path of payments modernization?
The number one thing is focusing on operational efficiencies and understanding the pain points of your customers, right? Versus that transactional piece. If you're asking the questions about what works, who does what, when you try to plot it out and put a little diagram together of how things work in the office, then you can identify opportunities for them to improve efficiencies, right? And start to automate the process, right? The second piece is really about education, right? And so if I'm a banker, one, educate yourself on these type of solutions. You don't have to know them inside and out, right? But you have to know kind of what are the value benefits, right, of your AR solution? What are the value benefits of your AP solution, right? And how do you ask the questions to uncover that? So I think it's educating themselves and their businesses and their clients, right, on what is an API, right? What is it? How does AI affect your business? How can machine learning help your business? Those kind of things. So it's number one, focusing on the operational efficiencies and the pain points of your customers. And number two, it's educating them and educating yourself on the solutions out there and what they do. Because the more you understand that, the easier the conversation is. Because you and I talk about this every day and all day long, so it's kind of makes sense right away. It is kind of simple when you start to think about it, but when you start to bring in, how does someone do something today? How does the legacy infrastructure look? How does, what's the operational, organizational alignment? How do you work with, that's where this thing gets complicated. The point of it is pretty straightforward. That's where bankers really, need to get a good understanding of where the pain points are at their customer and really understanding and educating them on, what does this technology mean?
I was just considering, I think about payments inbound and outbound every day. You think about that all day, every day. So it's a good discussion. What final thoughts would you have for the audience? Any key nuggets to either repeat or new thoughts?
Number one, I think it's, make sure that you're investing in platforms that can aggregate the data, analyze the data across multiple channels, right? Make sure you're, looking at your solution set and investing in those platforms so that you can deliver those to your customers, right? But I think the second thing is probably more important than anything, and we've been talking about AR and AP solutions for a while. And I think sometimes people think, well, everybody has them, right? So why should we be talking about them? The reality is, and Datos just put out a survey that I was reading that I found fascinating, right? And so on the AP side, they went and surveyed a whole bunch of companies about, how likely are they to use automated payable software. 79% of these customers, have this opportunity to talk about, and they are dying for it. On the AR side, 55% were either interested or very interested in exploring a solution to help automate and utilize software. So I share that because I don't want people to think, well, there's not enough opportunity in the market. There is. There's a lot. And if you're a banker, you do not want the fintechs out there trying to get into your customers. You want to be able to provide these solutions, and I'm here to tell you that there is a ton of opportunity across your mid-market and your large corporate clients, and even down on the higher end of the SMB. They all need this to compete. They need to think about, the solutions that they provide to their customers. I think the easiest way for me to kind of frame this for people too sometimes is think about the best things that you utilize today personally. It's Amazon, it's Uber, right? It's Starbucks. They're frictionless, right? And they've created this frictionless consumer experience. And no one was able to kind of do that unless you were a big box retailer, because you had the dollars to invest. If you were small, mid-size, you didn't have that. Well, with the advancement of technology, everybody has the ability to automate, to utilize technology, to deliver a better customer experience, to compete with the Starbucks and the Amazons of the world. And so I say that because the opportunity is still there with these companies. They want to do that. They want to provide, a better user experience and a frictionless, transaction payment piece, right? They want to do that. And they have the opportunity to, and you as the bank have the opportunity to offer those solutions and keep them stickier clients. Greenwich talks about having more products, meaning they stay with the bank longer. Like, that's your goal. And so making sure that you're choosing partners to provide those solutions for you and making sure you're having really good conversations with your customers. To me, that's the opportunity. And it's really big. And that's why I'm so excited about the shift to the how, away from the why and the what.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Treasury Update podcast. Be sure to follow Strategic Treasurer on LinkedIn. Just search for Strategic Treasurer. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and statements made by Strategic Treasurer LLC on this podcast are not intended as legal, business, consulting, or tax advice. For more information, visit and bookmark strategictreasurer.com.